Hi, and welcome back to Hot Off the Press, the show about new releases and the authors that bring them to you. I'm your host, Jim Nettles, and we have a star-studded, stacked-up lineup for the evening to add to those holiday to-be-read piles. So, let's go around and see who is bringing in a lot of new stuff this week. So, DG, you are up first.
Hi everyone. I'm DG Carothers. I write action adventure LGBTQ plus urban fantasy. Last week I published the 7th book and the last book to one of my series, the Dragon War Chronicles. So Unity came up, and it's been 7 years in the making of finishing off this series, and so I'm super excited for everybody to share in the ending that I think was pretty epic, and I'm really happy with the ending. So I hope everybody else is too.
Congratulations to actually end the series.
Yeah.
Randee.
Well, first of all, congratulations to DG. 7 years is a lot of investment, so congratulations on that. I am an author of 3 books so far. My most recent book is Leave No Trace. It is a dark fantasy that deals with magic in the woods and musicians who saw deliverance and got the wrong idea from it, and a war going on between Fae and humans where the Fae are losing their world. So there's a lot going on there. And then there's a big bear. So it's also a Fat Bear book as well. It's Fat Bear Week, so here we are. Mm-hmm. I'm also an entertainment journalist. I write for Variety, the LA Times, and the Today Show. And I have another book coming out in March, which I guess maybe we'll talk about throughout the broadcast and maybe at the very end. So, hi, everybody.
Layla.
Hi, I'm Layla Dorine. I write LGBTQ fiction and romance, heavy on the rockers, the bikers, the shifters. And I am here tonight to tell you about More Than Scars, which will be my 2025 Rockstar Romance Road to Rocktoberfest book, co-written with my best friend, T.L. Travis.
Jamie?
Hey, I'm Jamie Garner. I'm a professional author and editor. I've written over 20, 30 books, and edited hundreds. Tonight, I'm going to talk about my next book, released through Ginger Blue Publishing. From Angry Secretary to Catgirl Heroine in Just One Rebirth. It's a portal fantasy lit RPG with plenty of queerness going on as well, and be out late this year.
Jenny?
Hi, I'm Gini Koch. I write the Alien Catherine Kitty Cat series, formerly for Dog Books and now for Ginger Blue Publishing. I also write under a variety of other pen names in all lengths and genres. And one of those pen names, I'm talking about The Belters by me writing as Nita Ensall. And as me, there's a new Kickstarter going on for Unidentified Funny Objects 10, and I'm going to talk about it and the story I'm going to be writing for.
And Lynn.
Yeah, I'm Lynn Michaels. I write romance, and I've been writing for quite a while now. I've got a lot of books out across the spectrum of genres: paranormal, contemporary, sports, and rock stars, which is what I'm going to talk about today because I am in the same series as Layla. My entry is not the front man, which is a kind of complicated dual plot, but it is my 2025 Road to Rocktoberfest. And I'm really excited to talk about that tonight.
So, DG, let's start with you on this one. But let's talk a little bit about the big setup, right? What's the world look like? What's the world we're stepping into, especially since you're rounding out a world and rounding out a series? What's the world we're stepping into?
So this world, it's set. Well, when I first started writing it, it was set a couple years into the future. Now it's still a couple years into the future, but we're almost there. But it's a world where dragons originally came to Earth as basically like refugees because the planet that they came from was falling apart because they completely drained it of all its minerals and stuff, and it was literally breaking apart on them. And so Earth was one of the planets that they fled to. This was several millennia ago. And they spread out across the Earth, and discovered humans and decided that they really didn't want to interact with humans. So they created these creatures out of their own blood and magic, plus the local animals. And this became a shifter species. So there's dragons and there's shifters. Fast forward several millennia and they're dying out because they're not reproducing correctly, because there hasn't been enough magic for them to reproduce correctly. And so the series starts out with an introduction of the first female dragon born in the last 800 years. And she was born through a lot of genetic experimentation and whatnot from her father. But she was also hidden from dragon society because he didn't want them to know she was there to protect her. And so she grew up amongst humans but ended up surrounding herself with shifters who were protecting her. And she built this rather decent life and business and whatnot. And then she gets contacted by another dragon clan who doesn't know that she's a dragon to do a business negotiation between two companies. And she uncovers this huge plot to reveal, to attack dragons and shifters. And they go onto the brink of war over the course of the series, and it introduces a huge cast of characters, and the plot doesn't stay focused on her throughout the whole series. It flows through various characters, with the focus being taken on and off as they journey through this impending doom that they have to fight through together and bring not only dragons together in a more unified force than they already were, but also the shifters that they created, because a lot of them were abandoned because they were reproducing in such great numbers that they couldn't keep them concentrated together on the clan lands that the dragons were living on. And in order to overcome the bad guys, they had learned that they have to come together and unify, and also not just with all of each other, but unify with humanity as well, to bring everybody together. So that's kind of the world that we enter into, where dragons have been manipulating humans behind the scenes, controlling resources to keep the environment cleaner, and stop humanity from destroying the earth the way that their ancestors had destroyed their own planet. So it's a fight of survival.
So, Randee, what's your big setup?
Oh, my big setup. So we've got a young woman named Lexi who has grown up in the forest basically for the past 10 years. She's just about to turn 18. And she's there because her father is terrified of magic. And for some reason, magic is leaking into the human world. And so he wants to keep her and her brother safe. And he brings them into the forest and refuses to let them leave. And the thing is, what he doesn't know is that this particular section of the Rocky Mountains is a little more magic than maybe your average place. And she has become friends with the Gili Dhu, who is out of Scottish folklore tradition. He's sort of the protector of the forest, the green man of the forest. And she's also gotten to know this very large bear named Ardeo, who is a goddess out of Irish tradition. So this is clearly not the place to go, but she has to hide all these magical connections from her father because he just wants to rid the world of magic. And into all of this comes two musicians who are escaping a scandal out in the real world, and their manager named Tony, who actually has been, he's out of the military now, but he had been fighting in this war that's going on in the background between humans and Fae, because the Fae are losing their world. It's starting to disappear, and that's why magic is showing up in the human world. So these two groups collide. There's a bear hunt. Things do not go well in many, many ways. And it's about emerging from, the protection, quote unquote, which is sometimes suffocating, of other people, and becoming your own person and discovering the magic that you have inside of you. And that is part of Lexi's journey, but it's also part of the journey of these musicians who don't even know what they're getting into. And by the end of the whole thing, everybody has been in one way or the other sort of brought into this war that's going on. And we're sort of left to figure out where things are going to go and how they are going to resolve. It is a standalone book, but it does connect to another book that I had that came out earlier this year. By the way, I don't even know if I said it, but the book is called Leave No Trace. But Leave No Trace connects with another book that came out for me earlier this year. It came out in April. It's called The Only Song Worth Singing. And both are really complete standalones, but they both refer to the Fae world as the green place. And there are things that happen in the first book that are affecting things that are happening in the later book. And I have a third book in mind that will sort of tie things together. But for right now, they are completely standalone. So there's The Only Song Worth Singing, which is rock stars and Irish fairies, and Leave No Trace, which takes us to a different world in the woods with Scottish and Irish magical creatures showing up to sometimes do battle with and sometimes make friends with humans. So that's really kind of the world that I'm presenting here in Leave No Trace.
Layla?
Well, this is year 5 of Road to Rocktoberfest for me. So we are going back to the desert. Picture Burning Man. Picture, days and days of bands playing, multiple stages. It's, over the years, we've put in, there's a neon church, there's a shred off, there is a splash pad, there is bubble wars with these giant cannons. If you can think of a party in the desert, that's where we're going for Rocktoberfest. And this year, we're going with a new band. And it is actually book 1 of the Imminent Danger kind of series that TL and I have decided to do surrounding Rocktoberfest. So we played Build-A-Band. Every other year in the past, we've kind of come in individually with, our band for the year. And sometimes we bring back the old band so we can tell 2 more character stories. This year, we decided that we were going to have this book start with tryouts. So in order to get these guys to Rocktoberfest, they've got to create a band first. And they are doing it while signed under a management company that she has created in some of her previous books. So it's great to kind of play in that playground and get to see old characters. We've actually got old band members from previous years who are going to be mentoring these new band members that are part of Imminent Danger. And Imminent Danger is actually made up of a character. It is actually formed around a character from my Prod Camp series. He was introduced there. He's mentioned. You never really see him, but you learn about Bowie James through one of the characters in A Little Campfire Blues, Axis, who was in a former band with him. And now, we're 3 years down the line from their band breaking up. This is a whole new opportunity for Bowie to actually play on a grander stage. And there is no grander stage in our little world than Rocktoberfest.
Jamie?
Oh, God, of course, it's when you call me that I cough. So Kegger Heroin takes place for a chapter or 2 in the real world, but we get past that real quick because who wants to deal with the boring real world? Most of it takes place on a very strange magical world called Aurea. Interestingly enough, it's a world that people on Earth know about. They know about it through video games, a very popular series in this fictional world called, Return of the Dragon Gods. Unfortunately, though, what Earthlings know about it is a very different thing because it is through the limited magic that exists on Earth, dreams and echoes and visions of Aurea seep into our world, through the dreams and imaginations of creatives. So these people take these snippets, reassemble it, and then add their own creativity to it. So when an Earthling comes to Aurea, they have even if they are rabid fans of this game, like our main character, Beatrix is, They find it's a very different world than what they expected. Specifically, Aurea runs very much in some ways like a video game. The magic of this world manifests in ways that a human would describe as a video game. They see it differently, they experience it slightly differently, but in a lot of ways it is the same, which gives a completely different spin on how their world and their lives play out. Like, they see threads of destiny, like glowing trails that are essentially what in a video game would be like a quest marker, and they have to make decisions, and they have voices in their head trying to tell them, the voices of, they all think of it differently. Some traditions think of it as the ancestors, some think of it as the gods, some think of it as just a more advanced part of their consciousness. Whispers things in their ear, things to do, things to experience. So it's a radically different world. It's also filled with a lot of different fantastical things. Specifically in the region of the world that Cat Girl Heroine takes place in is the heavenly savannah. It's like mythic Africa. Except it is literally where the dragon gods live, atop a giant spire like Mount Olympus. Which means in the outside world, which has mostly been dominated by an empire called the Silver Tier Empire, which consists of your elves and dwarves and gnomes, like your standard good fantasy races. They've decided they want to unshackle themselves from the machinations of the gods, and have waged war and went to wage war on the heavens themselves. So you have this culture of tribes and clans that are very naturalistic, all beast folk living in the savannah, that are about to be attacked by what the rest of the world considers a quite civilized, quote unquote, trying to deal with a more traditional naturalistic culture.
Jenny?
Well, I'm talking about two, so I'll do the Belters first. It's set in the asteroid belt and our solar system, but in the far, far future. We have perfected both short-range warp, meaning we can get pretty much anywhere in our own solar system in a reasonable amount of time, hours or days versus weeks, months, years. I've also perfected how to create mini suns so that the outer planets are warmed and able to sustain life. Jupiter's moons have been terraformed, Saturn's moons have been terraformed, and pretty much every moon that's viable has been terraformed. There are suspended cities around Saturn and Jupiter and even Venus. Mercury is left to stay nice and warm. And so forth. And into this is a series, this is a mosaic novel. So it's a series of stories about various people who live, work, and die in the belt. The belt is basically what keeps the system alive and going. But as with all jobs that are dirty, hideous, dangerous, and vitally necessary, everyone else looks down on the belters, the people who are keeping everything going. So there, in addition to the terrors of being in space, there are two others. One is the giant space squid, the Callalula, which were created by terraforming. And the others are the pirate armada that really terrorizes the system, mostly the belt. I mean, when you look at astrological maps, space maps, let's call it that, because I'm not talking about, Aquarius and Sagittarius. When you're looking at space maps, it makes the asteroid belt look really close together, which is not. There's giant swaths of nothing but blackness. And so if you have to live and work in that, it takes a certain kind of person. And that's what this mosaic novel is about, those kinds of people and how they survive and try to thrive. For my story for Unidentified Funny Objects 10, I am very fortunate. The editor, Alex Schwartzman, will many times share with me potential cover art, and we'll go over it. It's really fun to get that level of I got to see it first. And one of the options that he ended up not using basically the pictures of it looks like a very steampunk, cyberpunk world. And there's an old lady with a witch's hat and a cauldron and all these different kind of animatronic cats and rats and such around her. And I basically said, I'm going to write that story. So that's the setting, the cyberpunk world. The title of the story is going to be The Cat Lady Cometh. And I've been playing around with who are my protagonists going to be, and I've decided instead of humans, it's going to be 2 cats and 2 dogs that are searching for the cat lady to help them, save them, etc. And will she come in? Yeah, here's a hint. Yes, she will. So I'm very excited about that one. The Belchers, because I'm writing as Nita Ensol, I don't have to be funny. Writing as Gini Koch, however, and the title is Unidentified Funny Objects. I do have to be funny, so I've got expect a lot of witty, sarcastic repartee between the cats and dogs on that one. So I'm very excited about doing that. I've named the planet, this is open to change, but currently the planet is named New Jack City.
Not New Cat City, huh?
And, I thought about it. The thing is that it is a human world, and the cat lady is having to protect animals from this world.
Well, you could have made it New Jill City, and anyway. So, Lynn, how about for you? What's your offering? What's your setup in the Great Road to Oktoberfest?
Yes. So this is my 4th year writing in the Road to Oktoberfest. And it's been fun. And Layla really told you about the festival. So that's, the main piece of each one of these books. The last 3 years that I was writing was all around this band called Midnight Hunt. And they were making a big comeback in the first book. And they progressed through all of that. During that time, they get a band together. They help put it together. It's a band that's opening for them. So this year, we've moved on to the 2nd generation, and it's all about the new band, which is called Bramble Punk, and how they have to come up through the ranks, and they're not playing the main stage at the Rocktoberfest. They're on a side stage, but it's a big move for them, and a lot of the things that they have to go through with that and how they feel about each other and bringing on a new band member. So it gets a lot of angsty things going on in there, but it's tons of fun. So yeah, a lot of rock and roll. It's the world of rock and roll.
So I want to dive in now and kind of talk about, who we're hanging out with. And Randee, I'll start with you on this one. So let's dive in a little bit. Who is it we're actually hanging out with in this world?
It's kind of an ensemble cast. I've also played around a little bit with point of view. So we have our main character, Lexi, who has grown up in the forest. We get a first person point of view from her because I wanted her to feel like she was removed from the other characters in the story, not just because this was her circumstance, but because she spent a certain amount of time on her own, kind of talking in her own head, not like in a sort of off balance way, but more like, I mean, I don't know about you, but I certainly talk to myself in my head. I feel like I have to have this conversation. I'll sometimes say things out loud when I'm walking around and I'm like, where is that thing? I know I had that thing. Why don't you know? Anyway, so she's had a lot of time to do this because her only real interactions for the last 10 years of her life have really been either her brother or her father or the occasional sort of tourists who come to the forest and hire them to go track down the game so that they can have an easy hunting, successful hunting expedition. And so she's kind of populated this world around her. This is her neighborhood. This is her existence. She doesn't go to school exactly. She doesn't have other friends. So that's Lexi. And I wanted to have a very specific way that she thought and that you would see her thoughts. It's not impenetrable. It's not like Ridley Walker or anything, but I really wanted her to have a very specific way of thinking and then speaking sometimes also. So she's our main person there, and she is starting to really stretch the bounds of what it is she can do because her father's been very controlling. But now she's basically of age. She is not sure, does she want to be in this woods for the rest of her life? Is there something else beyond all of this? And then we also have point of view characters in Steph, who is one of the musicians who comes into the woods to go on the hunt. Now, she does not want to go on the hunt, but she's like second banana to the singer, whose name is TJ. And he's the guy who brings in all the money, and she just writes the songs. And they're friends, and they actually have almost a familial bond because they've been foster brother and sister. But she comes into the woods, and she's like, yeah, nah, I'm not really into this whole hunting thing, but if that's what TJ wants to do, I'm down to ride with him. So she comes in, and we see a lot of the world from her point of view, and that's how we understand where they're coming from and who TJ really is, and is he just a spoiled brat, or is there something else more there? Another character you get a lot of point of view from is Tony, who is their manager, because he's coming at this from he left the military. He was in this battle between humans and magic creatures, and he hates magic creatures even more than Lexi's father. But he also didn't want to be in the battle anymore. He'd seen some stuff, and he left. And he's now managing the band, and the band is kind of like, this is my new troop. This is who I'm newly in charge of. But he also still carries one of his old weapons, which was used. Which was also used to in the battle that he was fighting in. And this whole story takes place in a slightly near future. There's little technological references that I make that you can understand. It's not now, it's sort of near future now. So like his weapon is specifically designed to take down magical creatures. It's not bullets. It's not a knife. The humans have kind of rejiggered things. So like what could you do to knock the magic out of somebody so that you could take them down if you needed to? So he's actually bringing that into the woods, and that's what is that? Is that Chekhov's plasma weapon? It's got to be used somewhere. So those are kind of our main characters, and you see how they perceive the world differently, and you kind of have to decide for yourself really who's the hero and who's the villain here, and it's not super clear. There's a lot of moral quandaries, and there's a lot of conflicting opinions on how the world should work. And that's one of the things I wanted to put in there. It's not like deep stuff, but it's, I wanted to have each character have their own point of view in terms of how they were approaching the world and how they decided to change things or fix things. So those are kind of our main characters there.
Layla, who are we hanging out with in this one?
Well, this is a romance, so our couple, once they get their acts together, because they are still hemming and hawing at this point in the book, are Bowie James, who is the lead guitarist of the band Imminent Danger that they've built, and Presley, who is the new band manager. And in these opening chapters, what we've done is we've introduced Bowie and his best friend, Tony, who becomes the singer for the band, which is totally not what we planned, but it slid in there so sideways and fits so perfectly that we were like cheering from different rooms when it happened. It was an absolute blast. But we've also got Wolf, and Wolf is the head roadie. He is the guy in charge of making sure everything they need gets from point A to point B. And at the beginning, he is the one in charge of running these auditions. And we've got people coming to these auditions who are just there because they want to meet some of the members of Embrace and Social Centers and other bands that they're mentoring. So, we've got wannabe musicians, and we've got a lot of requests for earplugs. And, oh my God, can we make this thing go faster? And how many people are standing outside trying to get in here to audition? It's crazy, but fun. And out of all that, we get Tibby, who is the new bassist for the band. And Tibby is short for this big grand name that is such a mouthful that he's like, I'm so glad my mom named me Tibby. It didn't stop the bullies, but it sure helps me not have to explain my name. And then we have Claude. And Claude is another guy who was mentioned in a previous book. Claude popped up in Echoes of a Muted Song, which I released this past July. And that was another rock star romance book. He was brought in as a backup drummer, and he did not mesh with band. He was dismissed. He was sent home. And after being sent home, he decided that he was going to try West Coast because East Coast has not been working out for him. It's where he's from. He hasn't found a band that stuck. So out to Seattle he went. He's been out there pretty much since this summer when Echoes came out. And he has just auditioned, and on one hand it went well, and on the other hand they've already got a replacement for him on speed dial because it didn't go that well.
Jamie, how about for you? Who are we hanging out with in this one? You're on mute.
Sorry, I had the occasional cough. I didn't want to mess with anyone else's stuff. There are two main characters. One, of course, the main character would be Beatrix Taylor. She is from our world, and she has two major personality traits. She's extremely loyal and extremely angry. She's very irritable. She has a lot to be angry about, to be honest. A terrible dead-end job, a superior at work that has been basically sexually harassing her for months and months upon end, and not a lot of friends. And then, so one day, one fateful evening, when she finally snaps after having to stay after everyone else has gone home, and another round of sexual harassment, after chewing out Jared from Sales, who is referred to as Jared from Sales throughout the entire book, she's just about at her wit's end. And then she sees a cat about to be run over by a truck. And she's a heart of gold. She does the only thing that comes instinctually. She tries to save the cat. She saves the cat and dies, possibly? Definitely dies in the process, only to be reborn, basically plucked as a worthy soul by one of the dragon gods from Oregon, brought to the steppes and given a new lease on life. Where she is told very quickly that this world is not like the one that you think that you've known from your love of video games. But I'm so sorry, you're just going to have to figure it out. I've got to get going. In the process, though, Bee is changed from a human into an Arslan, which are lion people, one of the native species of the savannah, and basically given one last request from this goddess to save her people, which are a clan of sun lions, clan of Arslan, the Sunrise Clan, and she's just got to wing it from there. Fortunately, this is a world where being angry can sometimes being extremely angry can have some perks, but she has to navigate her way through this world. It is similar yet very different from what she knows. So sometimes she knows exactly what's going on, and sometimes she's completely lost. And a region of the world that's about to be in the middle of several massive conflicts. The aforementioned Silverchair Empire is seeking to invade to end the blight of the gods forever. And there is a new clan war brewing between the clan that she's supposed to save and a nearby clan that worship another god. And on top of that, things seem to be off with the people that she does meet. There's been apparently a massive change in the last few generations with the traditions and how the clan runs, and she's not sure what is right and how she has to navigate this. Of course, her opposite number is the first native that she meets. Sarnai is the equivalent of a princess for the clan. She's also a shaman, which is something that females aren't generally supposed to do, as the shamans of this clan are supposed to be the husbands of the sun goddess. Of course, she's a lesbian, so it kind of works out anyway. But, of course, is also the princess of the clan, carrying this, important noble blood in the last of her line. She's also not supposed to get married and continue the family line. So she is stuck in between a lot of rocks and hard places, especially as she is tied up and about to be sacrificed by a cultist from the other clan, when B runs into her. Adventure, danger, accident, rescues happen, and that is how B gets pulled into all of this. And there's a little love at first sight. A little that romance is a through line that runs throughout the rest of the book. So this is lesbian romance in addition to everything else going on. So you have two characters literally from two different worlds having to navigate. In a way, they're both opposite of what the culture that they're now in demands. Sarnai is a shaman when she's not supposed to be. She's queer when she's not supposed to be. And after the last major conflict, who is in charge of the clan used to be a very matriarchal clan, similar to how actual lions operate. But after the last conflict, people happen to know the males have taken control. So she has essentially been replaced in the role she's supposed to have in her own society. And B, not only just being an outsider from an alien world, is essentially a warrior, and a warrior in a place that the men don't want women to be warriors anymore, after so many were lost in the last war. So, in a sense, we're playing a lot with gender, as well as societal roles, and romance, and of course all the craziness of multiple wars going on at once in this place where the gods are real and magic is real.
Jenny?
Okay, well, in the Mosaic novel and the Belters, we aren't really following one set of people, but there is a family through line, the Olmsteads, who are hugely important at the second wave of solar expansion, which is the first story in the book, Little Big Planet. And the Olmsteads, they're not in every single story, but their through line goes through the whole series. And they're just their patriarch was somebody who really very smart and got it, and he has ensured that his family line remains strong, and there are lots of clauses in their business so that they never run out of family, and their business can never go to someone who isn't an Olmsted. And since they are the third largest mining conglomerate in the belt, that makes them among the system's most wealthy people. And so the Olmsteads are in there. There's some other characters that show up more than once, but for the most part, the book is taking you along a timeline at the start, and then we get into all the activity that's happening in their version of present day. So no specific character, one character there. You'll see Aaron Olmsted, the X number, over and over again, but they're each a different person, just like you're not your great grandmother or grandfather. Same with them. They have different strengths, weaknesses, fears, etc. So in The Cat Lady Cometh, however, like I said a little earlier, the main character is the Cat Lady herself. Basically think of her as a steampunk, cyberpunk Baba Yaga. I think Baba Yaga gets a bad rap, quite frankly. But she's got a cool house and everything else. And this particular iteration of her is very, very focused on how I'm trying to save animals. She's basically an animal rescuer. And how you say every time you watch a rescue video or go to the human site, you want to save them all. Well, that she can. And so she does that. She's going to do that with a little bit of magic, a little bit of science, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And then, like I said, the two cats and two dogs that are trying to get to her. One of the dogs is badly injured, and they are trying to find her. So, because this is a set of they were all in a home together, and their home got destroyed by bad guys, and their humans were done away with, and they've managed to escape. So they know they don't have anybody to run to because the people that loved them died. And so they are running for the cat lady and trying to find her to see if she can fix the one that's hurt and protect the rest of them. So that's their goal. And I can't tell you names because we're selling checkerizations, and 2 of my checkers have sold. So if this happens to go up before the Kickstarter is over, I still currently have 1 checkerization left. So if you would like to be one of the cats, the dogs, or the cat lady, names are up for grabs. So I tend to not kill my checkers. I tend to make them major stars. So anyway, so I don't have names yet because I'm going to be getting most of those from the people who have paid to checkerize.
I'm now picturing an animal rescue walking around on giant chicken feet.
Yes, except it's a cyber. It's a cyber one. Think of it as the
Fun in
HUD.
my head.
The hut is all, cyberpunk, steampunk. But that is exactly it. Yeah.
So, Lynn, how about for you? Who are we hanging out with on the road for this one?
So, Not the Front Man has 3 main characters. Yes, they all are involved in a romantic relationship by the end of this. Obviously, we start with Kay. He's our rock star. He's adorably sweet, and he's getting his dream come true, right? He's getting to be the rock star. He's the lead singer at the beginning, but it turns out maybe it's not the greatest thing he thought that it was going to be, and he's struggling with that. And he's struggling with some of his age play tendency, because this is also an age play book. So he's struggling with all of that, and he meets this entertainment lawyer who becomes his best friend, and that's Donnie. And he's really feisty and fierce, a little crazy when he gets going, but he has stepped up to take over his brother's practice because his brother is with one of the rock stars from the previous books. So now he is trying to manage touring with the band, running his practice, and trying to have a relationship with Kay. So he's pulled in many directions, and he's also really into the age play. And he's trying to be very supportive of Kay. And they're also trying to find their partners because they don't think they can be partners. So they each want someone who can be their partner. So that's actually, they're looking for their daddy. So we go through this and we meet the final third piece that clicks them all together. And he's a firefighter, and he has to figure out how he's going to manage his life as a firefighter with this rock star who's touring all over the country, and they just have to go through all of that and figure it out. But it was a really fun thing to write. Probably the biggest book I've written in a long time, because they just had so much to say, and their personalities were just crazy, and sometimes they were conflicting and sometimes they were melding together, and it was just really a crazy rock and roll ride. With a lot of conflict.
DG, how about for you? So who are we spending all the time with?
Let's see. It's a really large cast. But primarily, I think there's probably about 15 main characters in total that we see really throughout most of the series. But we start out with Danica, who is, our first female dragon born in forever. And she's really young. She's 39, which for dragons who live, 12, 1500 years, 39 is pretty young. So she's, even though she's a very successful businesswoman, she's a partier, very much a partier, and just living her best life as much as she wants. And she has with her one of her bodyguards, which is Xander, who is a Kodiak bear. And Then there's Matthew, who is a Jaguar shifter, and that's their computer genius, one of them. Then we have Kenshin, who is a silver fox. And he's actually the oldest out of them. He's almost 200. He's kind of like Danica's mentor, personal assistant, and you know, he's the one that everybody goes to for advice, you know. And then let's see, we have Aiden, which is one of her other bodyguards, and Bastian, which is their adopted son, and who is also a wolf shifter. And we also get introduced in the beginning to Colin, who is the CEO to Cleantech, which is one of the largest clean energy companies in the world that have really pushed the alternative energy technology for this world. One of the things I did for this world was they never developed nuclear technology. The dragons actually stopped humanity from developing nuclear technology because they saw it as an extreme detriment to the world. So the push for alternative energy and fuels started much sooner, and computer technology started much sooner too, because of that. So a lot of the beginning conflicts between like Danica and Colin are about the mergers of companies and the way the geopolitical format is for the world at that time. And so there's a lot of that interconnectivity, which brings in other characters as the story goes on. There's very different amount of pairings. There are romantic subplots in there. Many different pairings. There's the characters really span the rainbow as far as sexuality and gender, and I mix them all together because in real life, you know, we have all those different kinds of pairings usually within our friends and within our circles. We're all not just the same. So I brought in those elements specifically because of that. So that's sort of the core little family that starts out, and we learn about all the other characters that come in.
You can get a lot of people into 7 books.
Yes, I mean it covers. They go all over the world, and it's set in different places within the world as they discover this huge plot to, you know, ultimately reveal dragons to humanity through violence that they need to stop. So she can't do it by herself. And stuff happens and there's consequences. And so, yeah, there's a lot of people that it takes to bring everything together.
So, you know, we've got a lot of, one of the big elements I always love to play with, both in writing and when I'm reading stories, is that notion of the through line of how we create life, how we create culture, how we create story. And a lot of this tonight has to do with music, you know, and the two things I always love to pull in are music and food. And those two elements, because again, to me, that's a through line to life. And Layla, I'm going to start with you on this one. Right, is how do you really interject those things that make the world feel real?
I think one of the most fun things that we did because we were playing Build a Band was after the auditions, when the new members were signed, they go out for a team building welcome to the family dinner. It has been after each signing, they've gone out, they've talked, they've met their mentors, they've gotten advice, each bit of advice that's given at each dinner has rolled into the next chapter and the next meeting with the next band member. So by the time they got that bassist signed, the guitarist and the singer, who are already best friends, they were already like, okay, they've already been given the advice of, each of you present 5 songs, but also you need to come up with stuff you can play together so you gel as a band before you have to start writing music together. And oh, by the way, we're going to have this big conversation, this kind of prep work during a barbecue where one of the characters from one of the older bands, Stoli, gets to show off his grill station. And it's not just about showing off the grill station. It's about showing these younger guys where they can get to in the industry if they, follow what their management is trying to teach them, if they follow what their mentors are trying to teach them, they focus on the music, if they, they can have fun. But like Rocktoberfest and getting there isn't about going to party in the desert. It's about making this band so solid that when they get on the stage, because they're going to play on one of the opening nights and they're going to play on a sound stage, a side stage, they are going to have to pull out all the stops just to get people over to their stage. So right from the very beginning, their mentors and their management are preparing them for that. They're giving them the tools they need, but they're also building fellowship. And for those of us who love to travel and are foodies, you build a lot of fellowship through travel and food and sharing meals together. And so that is a big, big part of the bonding for the band. And that includes Wolf, who is the head roadie. That includes Presley, who's their manager, plus the mentors, all spending that time together in between finding each of the band members and bringing them into the fold.
How about you, Jamie? What do you do to kind of pull that sense of life into it?
Especially dealing with this situation where you're dealing with a whole new world, and I'm having to, it's a second world fantasy coming of all these thoughts and ideas and how cultures work and people act and the terminology, and especially when they're not, most of the cast isn't even human. By the end of the story, B's only human would only be considered human on the most possible technicalities. She really just, absorbs into the world. It's building all the little things. It's adding all the little touches. It is the food, an important thing. It's, there's several meals that are important, that happen over the course of the story that, we see a bit how, this world operates. As we, go from place to place and B starts experiencing this world for more than just the immediate danger situation she's dropped into. It's, how do people live? What do they use for housing? Where are they situated? Who's important in the culture? How they talk to each other? How religion in a world where the gods are real and very important to the day-to-day living of these people, religion and how that operates and interacts with the clans and the savannah, very important, and all things that are touched on. And importantly, I think this is just the thing, it's not just the stuff that gets exposited in your face, it's adding the little details to make something feel real and lived in, It's not just things that are critical to the plot, but all the little nibs and knobs and bits and pieces that sort of fill in the gaps and make it feel real and alive.
How about you, Jenny?
In the Belters, there's not eating in every story, and I don't really use music because we're thousands, like at least 2,000 years in the future from where we are today. So but I do use books. So there are meals that are very important, usually because they're being used to kill somebody. So
that's classic.
Yeah, right. But there's also Alice in Wonderland is hugely important in one of the stories. One of the things that I did is that it mentioned that reading is really, really a big deal. Because a lot of people, you're out in the middle of nowhere in a spaceship with nothing but blackness. They do have videos and stuff, but that uses energy, but really only use whatever your lamp light is. So pretty much everybody in the belt, be they a miner or or you run a conglomerate, you're a part of Ceres Main where you're running this part of the system, or you're, even pirates read. Everybody reads. The pirates don't read as much as everybody else. The Galactic Police read a lot because they're out in ships and, they don't want to talk to each other all the time. You're on a months-long mission. It's nice to escape to a book. So reading is a thing. There are entertainments, there are stories told, and so forth. So I have all that in there, but I don't. Unlike when the Alien series, Kate is hugely musically driven. So I have long playlists for every book. It's not the case in this one. And the same thing for the Cat Lady comic. Again, it's on a different planet. It's far in the future. And the cats and dogs they care about their next meal. So one of the ways to show how horrible this place is going to be is how I show what they don't have available to eat. And how the dog that's hurt is like, you guys aren't going to eat me, right? You're not going to eat me, right? And they're like, yeah, no. And then it's not while you're alive. Right? So there's a lot of that in there because you'll see the animals. They're trying to be really casual and cool about it because the two cats are in charge, and they're trying to be super cool, but they're all terrified, and they're trying to get to the only safety they've ever heard of, and will they make it or not, or will it be too late? It's one of mine. It's written as Gini Koch. They'll make it. They won't be too late. Written as J.C. Koch, they go die ugly. Written as Gini Koch, they're okay.
Lynn?
Yeah, so my guys do a lot of bonding over coffee, bonding with each other and bonding with their other bandmates, either by sitting around having coffee or waiting for the coffee to brew. They have early mornings, but most of their time is spent in this book actually on tour. They're living in tour buses. So they're eating meals together. They're sharing their lives together. So there's a lot of that going on. But I think one of the funnest things for mine is that they go to this one location where they're going to have a show, and they actually are getting off the tour bus into hotels. And the hotel people have forbidden restaurants because the big band has a very big reputation of breaking out into food fights. There's a food fight in every book, I swear. So sometimes it's not eating the food, it's playing with it, but they're rock stars, so that's kind of expected. So, but food does play a big role in all of the Rockstar books that I've done in this series.
DG, how about for you?
Food is actually a pretty big deal. I was thinking about this while I was listening to everybody. Danica grew up by herself and was raised by a single human, and isolated that way. So when she got older and started building her business, she built her family, that she's with now. And so there's a lot of family meals because, she likes to keep them close to her. Very much in kind of a hoardish way, not having had that for the first half of her life. So there's a lot of meals spent as a family together. She also tends to make a lot of speeches during those meals throughout the series. And she loves her food. Do not get between her and food. She eats a lot. She's a growing dragon. She eats a lot. And at one point, she's having dinner with Colin for the first time, and she's totally teasing him because he's eating so little, in her opinion. and he just is in amazement over how much she's actually getting down, but she does. She loves her food, and she's very particular about some of it not so much. But all the dishes and stuff, because she absolutely loves Indian cuisine because it's one of my favorites. And when I was living in France, I used to live by Little India, so a lot of the more regional dishes and stuff she really loves. So I always get really into describing a lot of the food that they eat because I like food. So I know I get sometimes a little bit too descriptive with their food.
Randee, so you get to wrap it up. How do you like to bring that life and all into your world?
So I think that when you're telling a story that is about a specific niche, whether you've completely invented a world or you're trying to inhabit a world that already exists, I mean, the most important thing are the details. So we talked about the fact that music is a big deal in a lot of these stories, and food is a big deal in a lot of these stories. I think the place that you're also creating is also a very big deal. So for me, with Leave No Trace, I'm a former music journalist. So I've interviewed a lot of bands. I've been on tour buses. I've been on the road. And there's just all these little details here and there, and you see how band members interact. And I wanted to bring in that sense of what that was like. There's most of this story does take place in the woods, but there's an early scene where they're all holed up at the Chateau Marmont in California, and all these hangers-on are there, and the PR person stops by, and they talk a little about the business and how it can be very draining on a musician. So like I wanted to work those kind of details in. And then in terms of food, because we're in the woods, you're not there to get gourmet things, but I think food brings a realism to the whole thing. And one thing I did do with my rock star's money is he's not coming to the woods just to hunt and sleep in a pup tent, right? Like he's still in the whole glamping thing. Like they have imported a chef to cook while he's there because he has that kind of money and that kind of power. So there are descriptions of like this really high-end sort of like macaroni and cheese that's there, and they've actually managed to even bring in ice cream to this remote spot. And it's used not just because it's wonderful to write about food, but also to underscore his character and the kind of person that he is going to be, or he is. And it's meant to also create this contrast between where he starts out and where he ends up. So food is important, but it can be used for more things than just to sort of conjure up, this is what the meal would look like. It's meant to underscore character, and it's meant to create a sense of place. And there's one scene early on where Lexi, who is much younger at the time, she doesn't have a lot of access to sort of unusual foods or, foods that might be difficult to find in the woods. And until this moment, she's never had a marshmallow before. And somebody who has hired them for the hunting has brought a big bag of marshmallows to make s'mores, and they make s'mores with their guides. And so she gets to have a s'more for the first time. And then when they leave, they just give her the whole bag of marshmallows. And like her dad's like, well, what'd you think of that? And she's got all these marshmallows stuffed in her mouth and everything because they're so amazing. So again, a lot of these things are details that are important, but they also underscore more than just one thing at a time. So that's what I try to do with all the details of my stories.
Well, we've got a lot for everybody to stack up on those to-be-read piles. But before we get out of here, let's make sure everybody, of course, knows where to find you guys. Website, social media, and, of course, what the name of the book is. So, DG, you're up first.
So the last book of this series, which this series is Dragon War Chronicles, the last book is Unity. It is currently available on Amazon in Kindle Unlimited only. The rest of the books, however, are available everywhere. And you can go to my website, www.dgcarothers.com, and get all of the books directly from there. In fact, I have a bundle that's currently on sale with books 1 to 6. That's 50% off directly on my website. Also there, you can sign up for my newsletter. You can join my members only reader group, which is free to join. All right on my website, as well as when you join the group, you also can join the Sapphire Clutch and start earning loyalty points that you can use towards purchases in my store. And you can earn points just by joining the group and participating in the group. So you don't even have to buy anything to get points to spend on stuff.
Randee?
Almost anything you need to know about me is at randeedawn.com. You can see my name and how it's spelled, but it's Randee with 2 E's. If you go to randeedawn.com, I've got links to all of my books. They're available on Amazon. They're available on your, through indiebook.org, all of your finer locations, shall we say. But you can start on my webpage and look there, and you'll find all the irrelevant links, as well as quotes and links to press and everything you might want to know about the book before you go and buy it. Also, if I have a short story in an anthology, I've got all that kind of stuff up there too. And in terms of all the socials, I've done my best to either be Randee or Randee Dawn at pretty much all of the relevant ones. So if you look me up on Facebook or Blue Sky or Instagram or Threads, and even on TikTok, I do occasionally do some videos. It's either Randee or Randee Dawn. So yeah, come find me. I've got a mailing list. Let me know what you think of the book. And I hope to see you at a bunch of cons, because I'm always trying to go to as many cons as possible.
Layla?
You can find me at Layla Dorine, author at Wix.com. That's also where you can join my newsletter. You can also find me all over Facebook, way too much. TikTok, I'm getting a little bit better on. You can find me at Rainbow Lyrics and Mellow Mushrooms. I'm trying to revise all my groups and finish a whole lot of stories for the end of the year. More Than Scars, like I said before, will be my 5th Road to Rocktoberfest book. You can find all the previous Rocktoberfest books on Amazon. They are all in KU. You can also find Echoes of a Muted Song, which is not a Road to Rocktoberfest book, but has characters who have appeared in them and who will be appearing in More Than Scars. More Than Scars will be out at the end of October. And if you're curious about Bowie's previous band, you can read Axis's story in A Little Campfire Blues from Pride Camp this past summer. All of them are interconnected. If it's got a guitar on the front, you'll see everybody popping up somewhere.
Jamie?
You're on mute.
And you're on mute.
Sorry, I just didn't want to cough during people's presentations. Anyway, you can find my stuff very easily. My website, jbgarnerwrites.com, has links to all of my books for all 3 of my pen names. Also, you can just go to the publisher that releases pretty much everything I put out these days, Ginger Blue Publishing, at gingerbluepublishing.com. Social, same thing. JB Garner Writes pretty much everywhere. Facebook, I'm especially active on Blue Sky, and anything like that.
Jenny?
Hi, my website's www.ginikoch.com. If you want to join my free newsletter, hook me up. You can do so from the bottom of most of the pages of that website. I, like Layla, am all over Facebook. I'm also on X, Twitter, Blue Sky, and Pinterest. It looks like I'm on Instagram, but that's because Ginger Blue hired a young. And anything going on there is the young, not me. I still can't even figure out how to open it, which makes me feel very dumb. But there you go. I'm not a young. I can't help it. As it says, my most recent releases are The Belters by me writing as Anita Ensall from Ginger Blue Publishing. And please support UFO Press's Kickstarter for Unidentified Funny Objects 10. And that's going to be coming out early next year. Stories are due at the end of this year. So we've got tons of other stuff. Like Jamie, most of my stuff is with Ginger Blue right now. So if you go onto their website and look at current releases and coming releases, you'll see a lot of my stuff.
And Lynn?
Yes. So, Not the Front Man releases October 6th on Kindle Unlimited. And you can get that as well as all the previous 3 years of Rocktoberfest books are in a box set. And you can and that includes a bonus story. And you can get all of those links as well as all of my social media links and any special things that are going on, everything, including signing up for my newsletter at my website, lynnmichaelswrites.com.
And you can find me at jamespnettles.com, authoressentialsworkshops.com, creatingpros.com, and of course here at Continual. And we will see you again soon. Go stack up those to be read piles.